There is a story in the biblical book of Esther of a man by the name Haman, who was appointed as prime minister by King Xerxes. When the king promoted him, he also sent out a notice that all the royal officials were to bow down at Haman at the king's gate. But there was one Jewish leader who refused to bow down. His name was Mordecai. When Haman realized that Mordecai wouldn't bow down, he was incensed, enraged, so infuriated that he went to the king and influenced him to create a decree to annihilate all of the Jews in the land. He even went so far to say to the king, "I will finance the extermination." The date of this massacre was determined by the casting of lots. In other words, Haman rolled the dice to determine what date, what month this brutal attack would take place. And the dice rolled out to the 13th of Adar, which would be equivalent to February, March of our time, the 13th of March of our time. Imagine the terror that spread throughout the land amongst the Jews. As the hours went by, as the minutes and seconds rolled by, these people were weeping and wailing and tearing their clothes for fear of what was going to happen to them. Mordecai went to his niece, who was Queen Esther, and he pleaded with her to go to the king, do something on the behalf of your people. And initially her response was, "Uncle Mordecai, you realize that I cannot go and see the king uninvited, and to do so would be the end of my life." Mordecai sent word back and said, "Listen, Esther, don't think because you're living up in the king's palace that you're going to be exempt from this annihilation yourself. Remember, you are Jewish." Upon hearing this, Esther called for a national fast amongst the Jews for 3 days. And in it, her resolve was, "I have to go and see the king. I have to." And then we hear some of the most famous words in the scripture. She says, "If I perish, let me perish." I'm thinking now of the words of a song from Donald Lawrence that says, "When the saints go to worship, that's when deliverance will take place. When the saints go up in praise, all of Satan's powers are erased. Every trap the enemy sets won't work when the King of Glory comes in." The people prayed, the saints, if you will, prayed, and God stepped in. There was a divinely orchestrated meeting of Esther, King Xerxes, and Haman, in which two things happened. The queen, Esther, was bold enough to reveal her true identity, that she was a Jew. And the people who were about to be exterminated were her people. She also revealed that the very person present in that meeting at the table, Haman, was the one who plotted their destruction. At that, the king was outraged, and he ordered then Haman be hung on the very gallows that he had set for Mordecai. That whole event occurred 2,500 years ago, but the Jews today still celebrate it through something called the Feast of Purim. And in it, they're commemorating how God in his mighty hand delivered them from Haman's diabolical plot. Haman is now dead, sleeping in the dust of the ages. But you know what? The spirit still lives on. It seems that in every generation, there comes a Haman act-alike, one who is hell-bent on destroying anyone who doesn't bow down to him, anyone who doesn't believe what he believes, anyone who doesn't look the way he looks. And when we see this satanic spirit, we must remember Esther, her selflessness, her courage, her God, our God, El Shaddai, Yahweh, the God who makes things happen. We too must summon our courage even today in a time when we see wickedness all around us. We must summon our courage and not be comfortable in our places, but rise up and realize that God has placed us here for a time such as this. This celebration of Feast of Purim, I realize is not exclusive to my Jewish brothers and sisters, because all of us have seen instances where the enemy wanted to take us out. But praise be unto God, our God, who guides and guards and protects through and in, above all the plots and plans of man, delivered us in those situations. So we celebrate, we remember, and even in our trying times, even at this moment, the Feast of Purim reminds us that if we just wait, if we trust in God, a change is going to come. Enjoy this time of the Feast of Purim. Shalom.